and communicate more effectively with all the constituents who we interact with. I want to think about how we as a collective group can drive more economic growth. Because if we could do only one thing, the acceleration of economic growth will solve many of these job transition challenges that so many of our employees, customers, and partners have. And we also have to think about education. I think now K through 12 education, at least in the United States, is becoming more and more out of step with what is required. And then how do we create a culture of lifelong learners? And I think if I could focus on one thing this week and look for in the sessions that I attend, is how do we rebuild trust in business, in government, in institutions, because I think what has happened in this dislocation, which quite frankly is caused to some degree by technology, the lack of trust among our citizens in virtually every country, I think is a very acute problem. So delighted to be here, lots to think about, and an excellent week, I think, for reflection on how each of us as individual leaders can manage this in a more effective way than has been done in the past several years.
Thank you very much. Frans, can I ask you what your expectations are of this coming week?
Sure, my pleasure. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm happy and proud to be co-chair here at the World Economic Forum in this year, especially around the theme of responsive and responsible leadership, something that is close to my heart and also, I believe, close to the nature of my company, Philips. For those of you who don't know, Philips is one of the world's leading health technology companies. In fact, over the last month, I've been part of the team instigating the World Economic Forum Compact for Responsive and Responsible Leadership. And obviously, I have signed it, and also the chairman of Philips, as we believe that these signatures reinforce a set of common values, underlining that companies have a role to play with a longer-term vision, but also a role to make the world more sustainable. And unsurprisingly, we have built in the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, as formulated by the United Nations in this compact. How to make people healthy, improve their well-being, make them have food, address the climate issues, and so on and so on. These are all very relevant topics that I think are also very much on the mind of people in the world, and maybe causing some of the unrest and mistrust that was just talked about. So if we all, let's say, put our companies to work in a responsible and responsive way, we will actually make a better society. And so far, over 100 CEOs since yesterday have signed already. One of my goals here in Davos is to make sure that we all move away from short-termism and sub-optimization towards a more inclusive way of entrepreneurship. The world is changing. There is a lot of fragility and complexity. There's also progress in other parts of the world. We should not only look at the West. We should also recognize that in Asia, billions of people actually have improved their lifestyle over the last 10 years. So that is also great progress. But obviously there are challenges to deal with. Now at Philips, we have made the decision to focus our company on improving health and well-being. We have a clear vision to make the world healthier and more sustainable. And actually we have said we want to touch and improve people's lives, 3 billion of them by the year 2025. We need to understand and truly listen how, for example, precision medicine can get to better outcomes, how more productive healthcare can lead to more affordable healthcare. And for example, in countries like Africa, we can bring primary care in areas where there are not even doctors. So making healthcare inclusive and accessible and affordable. Technology will play a big role in it. And over the last few years at the World Economic Forum, we have put health and healthcare as an important theme on the agenda. And I'm very pleased and proud that as one of the governors around healthcare, we bring together NGOs, providers, insurance companies, technology companies, in order to discuss how we can actually make people healthier, prevent disease, prevent the spread of communicable diseases, but also how to deal with chronic disease. And technology will play a big role there. So for us, the North Star is how to make the world healthier. I think this week there will be a lot of dialogue on how to take the next steps there, whether it's food related, whether it's technology related, healthcare related. I'm sure that we can make progress there. But then, of course, it's all about action, and decisive action needs to be taken. And I think for me, this week will be good when there is clarity of insight and also clarity of the actions we will take henceforth. And of course, all CEOs then hopefully sign this compact for responsive and responsible leadership. Thank you.
Frans, thank you very much. Charmaine, thanks for joining us as co-chair and also representing the fantastic young global leaders community of the World Economic Forum. Can you just give us an indication of what will be top of your mind this week?
Well, it's a great honor to be the first artist to be a co-chair, and I think it really shows that the World Economic Forum is looking at a responsive and responsible leadership, because everyone is talking about how arts and culture is no longer intangible. It is very much quantifiable, and if we are talking in the context of the World Economic Forum, then we should look at how arts and culture is transforming economies around the world. And it's not only transforming economies in the way that it's providing jobs and regeneration of neighborhoods and suppressed areas, but also the fact that it is contributing to the GDP of various countries. I mean, if you look at the United States right now, 3.25% of their GDP comes from the arts and culture, which is far higher than agriculture and tourism. And so we need to start having a real conversation about what arts and culture really is. Not only does it create empathy, not only does it bring people together, but I think the most important thing for me this week is to talk to leaders and to get a conversation centered around how businesses and world leaders can invest in arts and culture, not simply because it's something that they must do, but it's also because it makes good business sense for them to do so. In Canada, which I call my second home, there's a very famous study that's recently been done, which shows that it's been done by the Canadian Business Council, which shows that in communities where art and culture is invested, the respondents, 86% of respondents said overwhelmingly that it felt that they had a healthier life, a better life. I mean, these are the statistics that are speaking about the future. In the UK, you find that the Arts Council says that for every pound invested directly in public arts gives a return of £5 back in taxes. And so this week, my hope is that we all simply not look at arts and culture as something that is separate from the entire conversation that is taking place here, but that is very much something that all of us need to talk about if we are going to talk about a world that is more inclusive.
Thanks to our co-chairs. And can I just get a sense in the room of who would like to ask a question? Okay, we have microphones for you. Can we start perhaps at this end and take a couple? And can you just tell us who you are and where you're from as well?
Hi, I'm Claire Zillman. I'm with Fortune magazine. My question is for Ms. Whitman. You talked about government being a partner in this effort, especially for making technology a force for good. I'm wondering if you think that President Trump, soon-to-be President Trump, fits your definition of a responsive and responsible leader.
Okay, great. And on the front row?
A similar question, Angela Charlton from the Associated Press. It's really a question for all of you. Your comments, notably in the beginning, about listening to our adversaries. What message would you send to Theresa May, who's speaking today about taking her economy out of the larger world, and for Mr. Trump, who's obviously taking office on Friday, on the issues of government responsiveness?
Okay, and just lastly there, because I think we can... Oh. Maybe lady at the back as well.
Thank you. Hannes Koch, correspondent for German newspapers from Berlin. Two questions to Ms. Thorning-Schmidt. First, what do you want to achieve for your purpose to improving situation of children? And second, can you collect some real offers or contributions by corporations concerning reaching the SDGs?
Okay, thanks for that. So a chance perhaps for our our panelists to reflect on responsive and responsible leadership and examples of that in the current environment. Also, to Hella there, just on some of your hopes on children. Would you like to take that first, perhaps?
Sure. Well, first to the question about what the British government should be doing now. I'm hoping that both the British government and the American government will stand by their legacy in terms of their development, humanitarian work. And I'm hoping that that will happen from the British side and, of course, the American side as well. We're still expecting a lot from the US in this area, and I hope that the new administration will live up to the history and legacy of any US administration, and also particularly Republican administration that have been very active in both humanitarian and development field. So that's one thing. To the question of what am I, as the only civil society representative here, hoping to do as a co-chair? Well, I'm here to work for children. And I'm here to remind everyone that we have actually, 1.5 years ago, made some really serious pledges to the most deprived people of this world, particularly children. We promised, for example, in the Sustainable Development Goals that we would end extreme poverty by 2030. Well, frankly, it's not going so well. We have 350 million children right now living in extreme poverty. In the 13 years that we have left to 2030, we will have put that figure down to about 167 million children living in extreme poverty. Not poverty, but extreme poverty. And I'm basically here to ask everyone to align around these goals and ask themselves, what can I do? And I do think that the social compact that we are asking any leader to sign from this meeting is a very powerful tool. Because once you have signed this tool, you're actually saying that we will not let short-term political or economic goals stop us from reaching the long-term goal of a fairer and better world that is aligned with Sustainable Development Goals. That's why I think the compact that the business leaders will be signing is very powerful, because it means that everyone has to go back and ask, what can we do in our company? And I'm sure that can work for children. And let's just remind ourselves that apart from the moral obligation we have to help children in extreme poverty or with their education needs or whatever, we also have it's also the smart choice, because the children of this world, if they're growing up in poverty or not in safe places or without education, what kind of world will they be part of, and what kind of future will they be part of for all of us? So that's why I'm here, and I'm actually very hopeful that we can get some real steps in the right direction.
Maybe, Brian, some of your reflections on the challenges facing political leaders as we look ahead at this week, and in an hour's time, I think we're going to be hearing from another of them on his thoughts on the global economy.
Sure. I think political leaders around the world are reflecting the trends in society that are dealing with some of the issues that Franz and Meg and others spoke about, which is dislocations coming from massive changes in technology, massive changes in the ability to deliver goods and services on a global basis, and the institutions that we have that have developed over time have to change to develop to meet that. And so, I think the number one job for a leader of any enterprise, whether it's a civil or political or a business, is to be responsive to the people they lead, in the case of customers or employees. And I think that the political leaders, whether it's the President-elect of the United States, whether it's the Prime Minister that referenced earlier, speaking on the terms of leaving the EU, these are all people who have to respond to their populace and deliver it. But they have to be responsive to 100% of their populations and figure out what's best for them. So I look forward to having the thing that one of the tenets of the meeting this year is also collaborative groups, and there's a lot of discussion about what you can collaborate on in the world and what can actually get done. The principles that my colleague just spoke about, signing a compact, and Bank of America has signed a compact also.